Hey everybody, today I am going to be talking about my favorite films of 2025. Five movies, and these are not really going to be in any particular order. As usual, guys, I have not seen everything, particularly this year. The flu took me out really bad last week, and so I had to miss Marty Supreme. I'm sorry about that. So I'll get to that maybe in a week or two. So yeah, this list might look a little bit differently in a couple of weeks, but this is just what I have so far. So the first film on my list is going to be Bugonia, and this was directed by Yorgos Lanthimos. I think this is an underrated film. The first time I saw it, I really enjoyed it. I thought it was unnerving and bombastic, and it's in this weird, sputtery, bug-eyed, abstract place that's both exaggerated and yet it has a emotional depth and dimension, and that's what I really enjoy about Lanthimos films. The second time I saw this film, I had quite a different reaction to it. I thought it was just so operatic, but it was the humor that really connected with me. It's explosive at times, laugh out loud funny, even though it is very warped. The music is so like brassy and like avant-garde over the top, reminiscent of like Stravinsky, like The Rite of Spring. And I think it really provided a crucial interior world for our character. It's that dichotomy of the grandiose and the seemingly menial that is just so interesting. It's also bizarre and unhinged as it goes along, and yet you cannot stop watching the further down the rabbit hole that you go. You have to see where this whole thing is escalating towards. The more I sit with the ending of the film, if you recall, I struggled with it a little bit in my review. But the more that I see the movie, the more it feels right to me. I wish it had been a little bit more emotionally satisfying and more narratively satisfying, I suppose. Really taking us down into that hall of mirrors for our characters, to explore that vulnerability and emotion. But it is a special piece for Lanthimos as far as I'm concerned. I don't think it's his best work. But it is similar to certain films that he has done. I look at Killing of a Sacred Deer, reminds me a lot of that, but I think they found more of a complex way of exploring that formula. I'm telling you, watch it multiple times. That's what does it. It has quite a cynical perspective, I think, but it becomes more and more interesting. Next on my list is Warfare. This was directed by Ray Mendoza and Alex Garland. When it comes to Alex Garland films in particular, this is by far the best one I have seen by miles. Perhaps it is because it is a collaboration, but he's made some very interesting films in concept, very compelling, but there's something that is off in the execution where I just feel like he thins it out. He always leaves something to be desired. I really struggled thematically with Civil War as an example, which is the film Garland did a year before this one. I found the entire project to be completely uneven. But this one, I feel like, plays to all of Alex Garland's strengths as a storyteller because this story is intentionally minimalist. We're deconstructing a highly intense situation, but through very basic, primal human instincts. And then you add Ray Mendoza, who's very talented in his own right, especially with all of his military experience. And I just think this one came together beautifully. It is a wonderful collaborative effort. I think some of the criticism of this film misses the point. A lot of people say that this glamorizes war or glamorizes the American perspective of war, and I simply don't understand that criticism. The great thing about art is that it allows you to see that everyone has a reason why they're in a certain situation. Everybody has a story to tell. And a film like this, I think, opens up that simple but powerful exercise in intention. There's no protagonist. There's really no score or anything like that. Many of the references here involve movies like Ellen Klimoff's Come and See, or, Catherine Bigelow's The Hurt Locker. Obviously, Saving Private Ryan is a big one as well. I think it finds a measured balance between that subtle building of tension, but then a visceral pain as the release. I was worried that this movie was not going to stick the landing when it came to the ending. I was worried it might be too sentimental, or maybe they might go for an overtly political message. None of that felt right at all. None of it felt like the point of this. But what they do arrive at, the final image, I think it is pretty perfect. It is ambiguous, but the silence of it is extremely effective. You could fill in that moment with all kinds of thoughts of your own. So yeah, I think this is another really underrated movie, and I hope that more people give it a watch. It is a tough watch. Certainly it's quite violent, but if you're up for it, I think it's solid. Next on my list, I'm going to go a little lighter. This is Weapons, directed by Zach Cregger. When Barbarian came out, his previous work, I was such a fan of that a few years ago. I just love the energy of it. I love the humor. I love the perspective on horror, especially, the perspective from a man to a woman. I've said this many times. It moves so well, but it feels very much like Krieger was making the story up as he goes along. And normally people might see that as a flaw, and in certain ways it is a detriment. But there's just a joy and a giddiness to him that is just so infectious to me. This guy is a film lover, and every single shot in here is so meticulously designed and so detailed. Obviously, this one is heavily inspired by Magnolia, and he had talked about that, soon after making Barbarian, making that distinction. But yeah, I think this movie did everything better almost than Barbarian. It has more perspectives, it has more complex perspectives, and there's just a lot more ambition behind the concept. I like that the symbolism is never overwrought or heavy-handed. I look at that dream sequence with like the big weapon, the Josh Brolin dream sequence, and it's like, they didn't have to do a lot with that. Same with the title of Weapons. Keep it ambiguous, make up your own ideas and interpretations about it, but it doesn't have to be the crux of anything. To me, this film is fun. It's a thrill ride. It cares that you feel that the terror, the shock, the humor, all of it. I think this guy is a real talent. I love him. The ending of this movie is just... it is joyous to me. It reminds me of like Ferris Bueller's Day Off. I've rarely seen something that has such great comedic timing, but it's also horrific at the same time. Next on my list, I am going to go with Sirat. This was directed by Oliver Lax. This is a Spanish-French film, and it is a road trip movie of sorts. It is a psychedelic movie, I think, on a surface level, but it's also a heavy spiritual piece of expression, and it's very sensory. The more horrific the human experience becomes in this movie, there's an eerie liberation that starts to break free in the characters. The closer that you get to death, the more alive you feel, and that is the true irony of life. I actually did not review this film, but basically the premise is you have all of these ravers, and they go to the deserts of southern Morocco for like a low-budget version of Burning Man or something. You have this older man in the middle of all of it, and he's with his son, and he's desperately trying to find his daughter, who he believes he has tragically lost to this party rave culture. Yes, that is the basic premise, but it is far more than that. This movie has a lot of interesting imagery in it. It reminds one of Mad Max or Lawrence of Arabia, if you want to go more cinematic, but overall, this heavily borrows from the philosophy of Gaspar Noé films, but in a way that feels very much its own thing. There is a simplicity to it that is very in the spirit of a lot of great Hispanic independent cinema. Very unadorned, unpretentious, and yet it captures very specific feelings, intimate feelings. But the fact that this is a road trip movie, I love road trips as a storytelling device, particularly for something like this and just in life and everything. There is a power to that. The further you go down the road, the further you get from your home, the more that these existential aspects of life start to creep in. It's like you start to lose a sense of yourself in the beginning, but then you find this beautiful harmony with the world and the strangers all around you that are traveling in ways that you might not normally. And I think that's a beautiful image and symbol that the movie captures. Spoiler alert, at the end of it, the faces of all kinds of people from all walks of life, but they are all on the same train, headed in the same direction. This movie has such a mystical sense of expression to it, and yet it also has such a rawness to it, a harshness to it. I think it's a magnificent piece of work. It's definitely not going to be for everyone. I think there are certain people that are going to see these people as, the characters in the movie, I should say, as, dumb, making dumb decisions, or maybe the movie is a little bit slow. I think that kind of misses the point of what it is. But yeah, if this is for you. It's definitely for me. It is so for me. So yeah, that's why it's one of my favorite films of the year. My final film on this list is actually my favorite film of the year. So there is one movie that does rise above the rest so far. And that film is One Battle After Another. This is directed, obviously, by Paul Thomas Anderson, and I just think it's special. I think this is real cinema. The editing, the music, the kineticism of the camera, the highs and lows of the characters' lives intersecting, it is all so thrilling. It's like Anderson is taking that Magnolia formula that he had in the 90s, but it's like he's learned from it, and so he can expand upon it now. I feel like this movie, it's like he's creating a modern day Western. I feel like this is one of those movies decades from now, you could have no idea anything about it, but you could pop it in and somehow it does resonate with you. Kind of like if you were to just randomly walk into a movie store and you've never seen a Sergio Leone film, and it's like, pop it in, oh, you're in for a treat. It's a little Leone, it's a little bit Coen Brothers, but it is all Paul Thomas Anderson. It does unravel a little bit towards the third act, and it can be a little bit scatterbrained as well, but I think what it achieves overall is remarkable. This film did get a lot of backlash for its political perspective, and I knew it would as I was watching it, and I was kind of prepared for it at the time, but I think that's very sad that so many people are allowing their political affiliations to dictate how they feel about the art, especially when it's a film like this that is so rich. Art is about the in-between, as I've said. You know, it forces you to look at the gray areas of life, the dangerous areas, and the ugly parts of humanity. That's where great art lives to me. Now, does this film have a political perspective? Absolutely, and you may agree with that side or not, but I don't think that it's solely pushing a political perspective or an agenda, and I don't think that it's necessarily glorifying Antifa or the left. To me, it shows more the pain, the loneliness, the sadness of people when they nosedive too deeply into political extremes, and how they lose everything. And this is true of both the right and the left. Perfidia Beverly Hills, as an example, I think she's a fabulous character. She's such a badass, and yet she's tragic because look what she does. You know, she can't allow herself to be a mother. She can't even connect to her family because of her beliefs and because of how much she believes in what she is doing. And so I find that tragic more than anything, not a glorification. Yes, this is a story of two political extremes and all of the chaos that comes of it. But at the heart of it, it is a family drama, like most movies, and that is something that I think everyone can connect to. Again, I think 50 years from now, you could watch this movie having no idea about the political climate that we experience currently, and I think you will find a lot to admire in the character of Perfidia. I think there's a lot to admire in the Leo DiCaprio character. The Sean Penn character is so interesting. It is so wonderful. For me, this is by far the best film of the year. But yes, that is my video. Those are my top 5 of 2025. Let me know what some of yours are in the comments. Thank you so much for watching. I'm going to plug my website as always. It is deepfocuslens.com. I'm an artist. I do commission portraits, and I also sell prints of my work. If that is something that you're interested in, you can always go to the website below. And if you have a question about a commission or a print, you can always email me. My email is in the description box below as well. Also, I'd like to give a shout out to my patrons who are great. Guys, thank you so much for your support. Welcome to all the new members. If you are interested in supporting, the link for that is below, as well as the rest of my social media information. You can watch my videos here, and you can subscribe if you'd like. Catch you next time.